There's people that have really been sitting back and wondering, boy, how much more intense can this thing get? Can you back it off a little bit? So today's going to be a little bit of a breather compared to the last couple of weeks. So hopefully you guys can enjoy a little bit of that. A lot of the conversations have been around the idea of how do we really live this out? I mean, how do we really get this crazy love to really transform and take us and live it? Because there's a lot of great stuff, but we've never talked this way about really believing in what the Bible really says and the challenging words of Jesus and really saying, okay, let's live it, let's do it, let's go for it. A lot of people are kind of wondering right now the application side. I think it's a really good question to look at and wrestle with. If God calls us to a greater challenge point of love and radical living and sacrifice and these things, how far is too far? How extreme is too extreme? So if you're wrestling with that, if you're in the middle of that right now, that's probably a good place to be. That's where a lot of people are at right now. Maybe you have your heart pumping in the last couple of weeks. Maybe you're one of those people that you're beginning to think, I want to go this direction. I think this is exciting that we're being challenged and fresh and new. And so I'm just going to keep going. Just keep going. And maybe you're one of those people that you're still worrying about, but I'd like to do it, but. I like to do it if this lined up. I like to do it if I had a better job. I like to do it if my calendar would clear itself up. I'd like to follow God bolder if my health was better. And maybe you're at the point where you're like, I really am attracted to this crazy love. I'm really attracted to the way God wants us to be. But I got to get my ducks lined up first in a row, a little bit better. And so maybe you're kind of at that point. Chapter 7 of the book Crazy Love is entitled Your Best Life Later. Best life, ... later. And I really think that really summarizes a lot of the way we live life. A lot of us live life like, you know what? Maybe I have 50, 60, 70 years here on planet Earth. Maybe 80 years. And we think somehow that right now it's just kind of the get-by years. There's always going to be the great time, the best time is down the road someplace. So later we'll have the great life. Right now we just got to make do with how it is. And we always have visions and dreams and what we want and what we don't want. And Disney came out with a movie called Up, and it was a huge smash hit. Up is a movie about a guy and his wife, and they'd always dreamed about their favorite getaway place. They always wanted to get there. They were saving up for it, and then life came along and things came along, and they never got to their place. They had a picture on their house that always, this is where they wanted to go. This is the ultimate dream. The ultimate great life would be, honey, if we could someday maybe get there. And the movie is dealing with the character. The wife passed away. The old man now is by himself, and he's just kind of regretting life. He never got to his dream. He never got to where he should have got to. And the end of the movie is kind of sobering because he goes through her scrapbook and he is flipping pages and he realizes where he thought the scrapbook ended with her, actually there was still more stuff, and she lived the great adventure. She had her amazing destination, and the destination was living life with him, and it was great, and it was amazing, and he never knew that she was living the dream. He never knew that somehow this was it. It wasn't that one day maybe, sort of, kind of, and he missed the entire life that was fabulous and amazing and great. How many of us are living that way today? How many of us are struggling with later, but maybe the life is right in front of us. Maybe the amazing, great life is not later. Maybe it's now. That's what Francis Chan challenges us. And I really wish he would have gone a lot deeper into that theme in this chapter. I think he kind of surfacely did it, so hopefully he'll do a follow-up book just on this concept. Because I think it's really a lot of where we live. That someday, maybe kind of, sort of, we can possibly get to our dream, but until then, it's not going to be all that it could be. He has a powerful statement on page 116 of his book on why we don't believe we can ever live the life that we dream of. On why we're never going to get there and we're always going to be forever frustrated. And listen to what he says. Christians today play it safe. We want to put ourselves in situations where we are safe even if there is no God. But if we truly desire to please God, we cannot live that way. We have to do things that cost us during our life on earth, but will be more than worth it in eternity. And I wholeheartedly agree. I think he just frames it up so beautifully right there. We create situations where it's safe. We paint by numbers most of our life. We dream the great, amazing, adventurous dream, but we don't get off and do anything for the dream. We play it safe, thinking only the dream will come if it all aligns and the cosmic alignment and the light shines and the bank account matches and the kids are healthy. And we wait for it and we wait for it instead of saying, you know what? Let's go please God. Let's go do something crazy. Let's go follow Him today instead of saying tomorrow or the next day or the next day. The Bible is packed full of men and women that live life opposite of what Chan just wrote. They live life in a way that they knew God was huge, amazing, cosmic, like we started this whole series off, but God is bigger than big than we can ever imagine. They wrap themselves in that thought, and if God is bigger than that, I should go with big and go with amazing and trust Him. In the New Testament, there's a long list. In the book of Hebrews, Hebrews has a section, chapter 11, commonly known as the Heroes Hall of Fame. And the key phrase that comes out of men and women that live this way and don't wait for later is faith. They are men and women of faith. It was by faith they did this. It was by faith they did that. By faith they saw this. It was by faith they tried that. Here's how that section of chapter 11 begins. In chapter 11, verse 1, and verse 1, verse 2, it says, faith is the confidence that what we hope for will actually happen. It gives us assurance about things we cannot see. Through their faith, the people in days of old earned a good reputation. And then chapter 11 just goes crazy with names of people you would recognize. You've got Noah, 120 years to build an ark in the middle of the wilderness. No rain, no nothing. And he keeps threatening that the world's going to be destroyed by rain. And he's building his ark, and his neighbors are laughing. And he keeps building for 120 years. That's not normal. That's absolutely faith, radical craziness. Then you have Abraham, who was willing to sacrifice his only son. Willing to take him up on an altar, raise the knife, get ready to plunge it, and do exactly what God wanted him to do as a foreshadow of what God would do for us through Jesus Christ. But he didn't know all the foreshadowing stuff. He just followed God and went up to the mountain, did his thing, and God provided the ram. And amazing, crazy, nuts. Moses led his people out of slavery. A guy who stuttered, a guy who used to be of power and influence, left. And at age 80, he goes and leads thousands of people out and follows God into the unknown. Rahab the prostitute hides military men in her home as they're scouting out the land that they want to take over and occupy for God. She willingly helps the enemy. And the list goes on and on and on and on. You go through chapter 11, and it just is, it oozes with people that didn't wait for someday. It wasn't if, kind of, maybe it was going to be a great adventurous life with God. They saw every day as a chance to walk and live with God. And it's a very powerful thing. It's earth-shattering when you think about what these men and women did, and the time they lived, and the tools they had, and yet what happened. The biggest thing I got out of this chapter, and the other phrase I want to throw out here, is on page 115. And I just was really, really, really hit by the impact of this. Something is wrong, Chan says. Something is wrong when our lives make sense to unbelievers. Now think about the people that I just mentioned. Think about Abraham. Think about Moses. Think about Rahab. Think about Isaac. Think about the different Bible characters that you know that lived amazing, dangerous, radical, off the edge, faith-walking life. Something is wrong when our lives make sense to unbelievers. Their life didn't make sense.